that I really love about the way that the center, for instance, has talked about it is to make sure that it's coupled with the more optimistic word. It's poverty and, what was it? Was it prosperity? Opportunity. Mm-hmm. To couple it so that it's not such a drag to people who really don't want to deal with the issue, and it's heavy and it's hard, and you know, it's that going on, right? I also think, though, that your question also raises a very important point about the need for us to convey optimism whenever possible when we're talking about this issue. Decision makers, as well as the public, are very much motivated by the same thing. You know, their heart issues. No one wants to join an effort, a movement, if they believe that they're not going to have an impact, if they feel that the issue is so intractable that even if they do pay attention to it, there's not going to be a real benefit derived from that effort. And one of the criticisms that I often share with clients who still talk to me, as well as people like you in this room when I get an opportunity, is to say that I think that the philanthropic world misses the boat on this one very often, because we are so immersed, and I have a policy background. I worked on the House side and for Senator Gore and was Director of Congressional Affairs at the Peace Corps, so I mean, I'm in that world too. But the communications part of me completely understands the need for us to convey optimism, just because, if for nothing else, it's a utilitarian way of getting something done. Beyond the fact that, as I started saying at the beginning of this conversation, I think we should be optimistic, because we know that there are good things going on, and what we want are more efforts to support those good things. But if we find ourselves in a place of really talking almost to the exclusion of solutions about how complicated a multifactorial and systemic poverty is, we do it at our peril.
Angela, I'd love your opinion as well.
I agree, I think, with everything that Gloria said. I use the language, and I think there are ways to use the language, but I always try to put things in the context of what we could do. The tagline for PolicyLink is lifting up what works, and I often tell people that we work at the happy end of the continuum, because we are saying there are things that work and we can lift them up and we can move on. But I also have to agree, because I have been guilty of this for many years, though I've tried to get away from it, is that in order to grab people's attention, we tell such sad stories. We tell such sad stories, and I think that we ought to measure that a little bit. We need to let people know that these are real problems, and you do that with data and with stories, but it must always be coupled with more of, and there's no excuse for it, because these things are going on in communities. These individuals have turned around their lives. And then the third thing that I try to find just everyday language to do is to talk about the policy fixes. And so I find that it's often challenging to think about a way to talk about the policy with the same excitement of lifting up the neighborhood project. But I think that's really our goal, to say, and the way to solve this is to make sure that all families have access to the income from the work that they do. Anybody who goes to work every day should not live in poverty. And this means that our minimum wages have to be at a certain level, that we have to really support unions, because when we have had some of the best wages and benefits, it's been when we've been strong in terms of unions. So to just try to tell it as a story rather than Senate bill such and such, you know? and I'm finding that that's beginning to catch on, and that lots of people are doing it. But I absolutely agree with what Gloria said.
Yeah, I would venture to say that any foundation that can muster the resources, I would say every foundation that can muster the resources to have some kind of video that captures testimonials can use it in ways that you've never thought of. Every foundation should create one, so that when you go in to speak to a legislative staff member, when you are holding community meetings to get support, when you are meeting with those potential partners, if you can't have a person from the community there at the table with you, which obviously is optimal and should always be a goal, then The next best thing is having some kind of video that can be offered up to humanize and put in context the things that people think they know about already. And I don't care if it's taking a video cam or if it's hiring somebody to do it. There's no substitute for being able to tell that story and to make it personal.
Great. Well, guys, I wish we had time for any more questions. Angela and Gloria will be around afterwards for a few moments, but I want to thank both of you for your dynamic dialogue here today.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.